Here it is, Alcatraz Island, a place shrouded in mist and legend, rising from the icy waters of San Francisco Bay. This isn't just any island. It was once home to the most infamous prison in American history, a place from which escape was said to be impossible. Welcome to Alcatraz, better known as The Rock. For 29 years, from 1934 to 1963, this desolate rock was a federal penitentiary. It wasn't built for your average criminal. Alcatraz was designed to house the worst of the worst, the inmates who were too disruptive, too violent, or too prone to escape from other federal prisons. Think of it as the end of the line. The prisoners sent here were considered the most dangerous men in America. Imagine being locked away here. Your world shrinks to a tiny 5 by 9 foot cell. The rules were brutally simple and ruthlessly enforced. You are entitled to food, clothing, shelter, and medical attention. Anything else you get is a privilege. Privileges were earned through good behavior, and they could be taken away in an instant. Silence was often mandatory. For many, the most agonizing torture was the sound of life drifting across the bay from San Francisco, the laughter, the music, the distant celebrations of a world they could see but never touch. The list of inmates reads like a who's who of America's criminal underworld. There was George Machine Gun Kelly, a notorious kidnapper and bank robber. There was Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz, who became a respected ornithologist while serving his life sentence. Though he wasn't allowed to keep birds during his 17 years on the Rock. And then there was the most famous resident of all, public enemy number one, Al Capone, the ruthless gangster who once controlled Chicago's criminal empire, was sent to Alcatraz not for murder or racketeering, but for tax evasion. On the outside, Capone was a king. Inside Alcatraz, he was just another number, AZ-85. The strict routine and loss of power took their toll. He reportedly told the warden, "It looks like Alcatraz has got me licked." He spent his days working in the prison laundry. His power and influence completely stripped away. Life on the Rock was a monotonous, soul-crushing routine. Wake up at 6:30 a.m., breakfast at 6:55, work duties from 7:30 to 4:30 p.m., with a lunch break in between, dinner at 4:50 p.m., and by 5 p.m. you were locked back in your cell for the night. The guards were armed with rifles and patrolled from elevated gun galleries, always watching. The prison was designed with multiple layers of security: steel bars, remote-controlled doors, and guard towers. But the greatest deterrent was nature itself, the treacherous, frigid waters of the San Francisco Bay with its powerful, unpredictable currents. Despite these odds, the human spirit's desire for freedom is relentless. Over the years, there were 14 separate escape attempts involving 36 men. Officially, every single one failed. Most were caught, some were shot during the attempt. A few were presumed to have drowned in the unforgiving waters. But one attempt in particular has become the stuff of legend, blurring the line between fact and folklore. This is the story of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence. In June of 1962, these three men pulled off one of the most ingenious prison breaks ever conceived. For months, they worked in secret, using sharpened spoons stolen from the mess hall. They painstakingly chiseled away at the decaying concrete around the ventilation grills in their cells. To hide their work, they crafted fake grills out of cardboard and paint. Their most brilliant trick, however, was what they left behind. To fool the guards during the nightly head counts, they sculpted dummy heads from a mixture of soap, toilet paper, and stolen hair from the prison barbershop. These papier MCH decoys, tucked into their beds, looked eerily realistic in the dim light of the cell block. On the night of June 11th, they placed the dummies in their bunks, slipped through the holes they had carved, and climbed into an unguarded utility corridor behind their cells. From there, they made their way to the roof, slid down a drain pipe, and vanished into the darkness. They had also constructed a makeshift raft and life vests out of more than 50 stolen raincoats, carefully stitched and sealed. They launched their raft from the northeast shore of the island, paddling into the cold, dark bay, and then ... nothing. They were never seen again. The next morning, the prison was thrown into chaos when the guards discovered the dummy heads. An massive search was launched, one of the largest in history. Pieces of their raft and a life vest were found washed ashore, along with a waterproof pouch containing personal items, but the men themselves were gone. The official FBI conclusion is that they drowned. The bay's water temperature that night was around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the currents were exceptionally strong. It's highly unlikely, they argued, that anyone could have survived the swim, but their bodies were never found. This absence of proof has fueled decades of speculation. Did they make it? Over the years, tantalizing clues have emerged. The Anglin family claimed they received a Christmas card signed by the brothers years after the escape. A family friend claimed to have seen them in Brazil in the 1970s, and even produced a photograph allegedly showing the two men in 2013. A letter surfaced, supposedly written by an elderly John Anglin, claiming that all three survived the escape, but that he was now dying of cancer. The letter's authenticity remains unproven, but it keeps the mystery alive. Did they perish in the icy waters as the authorities believe? Or did Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers achieve the impossible and successfully escape from Alcatraz, living out their lives as free men? It's a question that may never be answered. In 1963, just a year after the Great Escape, Alcatraz was officially closed. The prison was simply too expensive to operate. The salt water had severely eroded the buildings, and the cost of transporting supplies and fresh water to the island was unsustainable. The remaining prisoners were transferred to other federal facilities. For a few years, the island lay abandoned, a silent monument to its dark past. It was briefly occupied by Native American activists in the late 1960s, before eventually being turned into a national park. Today, Alcatraz is one of San Francisco's most popular tourist attractions. Millions of visitors walk through the cell blocks each year, listening to the award-winning audio tour featuring the voices of former inmates and guards. You can stand inside Al Capone's cell. You can see the dummy heads used in the 1962 escape. You can feel the chilling wind whip across the recreation yard and gaze out at the city skyline, just as the prisoners did, imagining their desperation and their dreams of freedom. But even as a museum, the Rock hasn't entirely shed its mystique. It is often called one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors and park rangers have reported hearing unexplained noises, the clang of cell doors, whispers in empty corridors, and even the faint sound of a banjo, which Al Capone used to play. Some say they've seen shadowy figures or felt sudden, inexplicable cold spots. Are these just the tricks of an old, crumbling building and an overactive imagination? Or are the restless spirits of Alcatraz's notorious inmates still lingering, forever trapped on the Rock? Alcatraz is more than just an old prison. It's a symbol of ultimate confinement, a testament to human endurance, and the stage for America's most captivating unsolved mystery. A place of isolation and despair that continues to fascinate and haunt us long after the last prisoner left. It remains a rock, a fortress, and a legend, holding its secrets close, guarded by the silent, swirling waters of the bay. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to the Rock. What do you think happened to the escapees? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories from the world's mysterious places. Until next time, stay curious.